The ocean is vast, mysterious, and full of creatures that are bizarre beyond our wildest imaginations. From anglerfish that lure their prey with glowing appendages to sea cucumbers that explode when they're eaten. The ocean's inhabitants really do have it all over us land dwellers, but one fish in particular. As fascinated scientists and horror movie fans alike, the anglerfish. They're best known for their ability to lure unsuspecting prey within striking distance by dangling a small light-producing appendage just above their mouths like a fishing rod. But they're also famous for their extreme sexual dimorphism, meaning the males and females look very different from each other. And if you think the differences between male and female humans are drastic, just wait till you see these guys. First things first, let's address the biggest elephant in the room, the size difference. To put it mildly, male anglerfish are absolutely tiny in comparison to their female counterparts. You might think the biggest growth difference between male and female animals belongs to the blue whale, where the largest males can grow to around 33 meters long, while the biggest females get to about 36 meters. But even that is totally dwarfed by the anglerfish. The biggest female anglerfish ever recorded was nearly 400 times longer than the male. Just to give you an idea of how absurd this is, imagine if the tallest person on Earth was about 5'9". The equivalent in the world of anglerfish would be a male measuring just under half an inch in length. So when a male anglerfish first lays eyes on his potential partner, she's basically like a goddess looming over him. But he doesn't seem to mind because once he finds a female he likes, he immediately swims up to her and gives her a bite on the side. Not just any old bite, though. This is a special kiss of love that transfers some of the male's genetic material to the female. And then he gets permanently fused into her body. Yes, you heard that right. The male anglerfish literally becomes part of the female anglerfish. The male's head gets completely absorbed into her body and he grows a pair of testicles on the outside of his new home. As you can imagine, this doesn't leave much room for, well, anything else. The male anglerfish loses all his internal organs and becomes a parasite, meaning he survives by feeding off the host, in this case, the female anglerfish. All he's good for now is producing sperm. He loses his mouth, so he can't eat. He loses his fins, so he can't swim. He loses his eyes, so he can't see. He loses his heart, so he can't feel anything. Basically, he's just a sack of mostly useless tissue at this point, although technically that tissue does have a pair of eyes. So there's that. It's kind of like being a human male, but way worse. At least human men still get to keep their organs and do stuff with them. Male anglerfish just get turned into fish babies' factories. Sometimes the females will even absorb multiple males into their bodies, which makes them look like something out of an alien movie. Imagine being so utterly useless that your species mates with you just so it can reproduce. Then immediately after you've fulfilled your purpose, you're thrown away, literally. You're kicked out of your own body and left to die on the ocean floor. Like, what's the point? Why even be born? Now, to be fair, there are some advantages to being an anglerfish. For one thing, they're pretty good at sex. Unlike most fish, which release eggs and sperm into the water in a process called broadcast spawning, anglerfish mate internally. This means that every time a male anglerfish kisses a female, there's a chance he'll pass on his genes. Compare this to the blue whale, whose sperm and egg cells meet up with hundreds of thousands of others in a desperate race to fertilize a single egg. Most anglerfish males don't even need to compete. The second advantage is that anglerfish don't have to worry about finding food. Since they're parasites, they basically mooch off their hosts. In fact, studies show that anglerfish increase their food intake by about 30% after mating. That is because the act of becoming a permanent fixture inside another animal's body requires a lot of energy. Not that the anglerfish would know this, though, since they've lost their mouths and all their nerves. They just kind of instinctively keep eating until they die. Still, if all you do in life is suck the blood out of another animal and produce offspring, you haven't exactly been living a dream, have you? So why even be born as a male anglerfish? It's a tough question without an easy answer. Maybe it is better to just not think about it too hard and instead focus on the truly important things in life, like whether or not we could train a bunch of anglerfish to play poker. It would probably be illegal, but could we do it? Take a look at this weird-looking fish. What do you think it is? If you guessed it was some kind of alien monster, you'd be right. Well, not entirely. It's actually a blobfish. The blobfish lives deep in the waters off the coasts of Australia and Tasmania. It is usually found at depths of 2,000 to 4,000 feet where it can survive the intense pressure of the deep sea. However, the blobfish isn't actually happy down there. No, sirree. It would much rather be hanging out in the shallows where the sun shines and the water isn't crushing it like a soda can. Unfortunately, the blobfish can't do that because its body is filled with so much gelatinous, slimy flesh that if it were brought up to the surface, it would explode. Literally, the blobfish is so squishy that it can't handle the change in pressure. Its skin is almost entirely made up of mucus, which helps it camouflage itself from predators. But this also means it has no scales, no bones, and no muscle. That's why the blobfish spends most of its time sitting on the seabed doing nothing. Now take a look at this weird-looking fish. What do you think it is? If you guessed it was some kind of alien monster, you'd be wrong. Well, not entirely. It's actually a blobfish. The blobfish lives deep in the waters off the coasts of Australia and Tasmania. It is usually found at depths of 2,000 to 4,000 feet where it can survive the intense pressure of the deep sea. However, the blobfish isn't actually happy down there. No, sirree. It would much rather be hanging out in the shallows where the sun shines and the water isn't crushing it like a soda can. Unfortunately, the blobfish can't do that because its body is filled with so much gelatinous, slimy flesh that if it were brought up to the surface, it would explode. Literally, the blobfish is so squishy that it can't handle the change in pressure. Its skin is almost entirely made up of mucus, which helps it camouflage itself from predators. But this also means it has no scales, no bones, and no muscle. That's why the blobfish spends most of its time sitting on the seabed doing nothing. And that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. See ya.